Hi, my name is SaiqaKhan, and I am a mother, wife, and surgeon. I also have a daughter with special needs. Her name is Remy. And today I want to share a story that was really a critical moment in her life. I think it will help a lot of people, especially those who are struggling with life challenges or struggling with medically complex children or struggling with kids who have special needs and trying to solve problems and solve puzzles that are not easily solved. I do want to start by saying that I'm not giving any medical advice. This is not about giving any sort of medical instruction. If your child or the person you're caring for needs medical attention, then you call 911, you get them to a hospital, and you give them medical attention in a hospital setting by a professional. Don't try to solve their problems yourself if it's a medically critical issue. So having said that, my child Remy was born with a very rare genetic syndrome. It's called Moat-Wilson syndrome. It's basically a spectrum of different findings that range from head to toe, but it affects the ZEB2 protein on chromosome 2, which is critical for neurological development. So these children can have a variety of different findings. Remy is the only one in the world who has her special constellation of findings, which includes visual impairment and choanal atresia, which is where the nasal passageway is closed. So basically her right nasal passageway was completely closed off in the back, completely obstructed. So she could only move air through her left nasal passageway. And this was narrowed because she had a deviation of her septum to the left side. So her only way to breathe was very narrow. And babies are obligate nasal breathers until the age of 6 months. So it wasn't like she could breathe through her mouth unless she was crying and moving air through her mouth. So we were really struggling with her breathing, and that led to a lot of issues with feeding. And she was expending a lot of calories trying to feed. So we had to do different things to address that. And we were irrigating her left nasal passageway basically with saline in order to keep it open, because whenever she would cry, more mucus would be produced and it would block her only patent side. Her only open nasal passageway would then get blocked and we would be in trouble. So the goal was for her to eventually have surgery to open up the right side, but we needed to wait until she was 2 years old. We needed to wait until she was bigger so that the success rate of the surgery would be increased. So the goal was to help her grow and get her to age 2. In the meanwhile, there was one night where she just wasn't able to breathe. And the left side was really gunked up. It was really occluded, and she was crying and she was struggling, and it was one of the worst. It was literally the worst night of our life. And it got to the point where we were thinking, okay, what are we gonna do? At this point, I was, in my opinion, the world expert on my child, because the physicians we would take her to had never heard of Moat-Wilson. Some of them didn't even take the time to read about it to prepare for the appointment with us. And I had, at this point, read all the papers I could. I had spoken to this lab in Italy that was doing a lot of great research on the syndrome just to learn more. And that's how I found out that Remy was the only one with her special findings. And so she was really struggling to breathe. I was thinking about taking her to the hospital. And then I was thinking, well, what are they going to do at the hospital? And this is where I'm making it very clear that if you are taking care of someone who needs medical attention, take them to the hospital, call 911. So I was playing out this scenario in my brain, thinking of solutions. And then finally, I just got so frustrated. And I just went into the other room while my husband was taking care of Remy, and I was just ripping at my chest, ripping my skin, thinking there has to be an answer. Why why is this happening? Why is this child here suffering? Why is this baby here suffering like this? Like, how could this possibly happen? And I was looking outside myself, making deals with the devil, saying, take my breath, take my life, making deals with God. Okay, kill me, take my nose, take my nasal passageway. I was thinking about all this magical thinking, you know, how can I magically make her breathe? And you know, I had used visualization and mental rehearsal with her breathing before. This is something we use as surgeons in training. We visualize the procedure, and we visualize the steps, and we go through the process in our mind before we actually do the procedure. You know, I still do that to this day. But anyway, I was looking outside myself and just thinking, okay, I'm going to die, turn myself into a mist, enter her nose, and fix it. And, you know, going through all these different scenarios. And then finally it struck me, and I thought, wait a second, Remy picked me to be her mother. I am the only person in this world who is her mother. I'm the only person who can be her mother. And I was created for this role to be her mother. And therefore, I can solve this problem. I'm a problem solver. I solve puzzles. This is what I've always loved to do. Even as a child, I would take apart the things around me in the house and put them together in a different way. And so I thought, my whole life has led me to be the perfect person to solve this problem. I'm a surgeon. I am an innovator. I'm creative. I'm resourceful. So I thought, okay, if there are no limitations, no holds barred, how would I solve this? And I started thinking, and I know the anatomy very well. I understand the physiology. And so I thought, well, I've got to offload the left side. I've got to get the septum to deviate the other way. I've got to make that narrow passageway larger. And what do I have? What are the tools I have? Well, I have suture here. I have this instrument here. I have that instrument here. And this is in my apartment. So I'm like, well, I really don't want to put a suture in her septum. And so I thought, what else can I use? What else can I use? And we had a bulb sucker, you know, the light blue one that they give you at the hospital. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to depress that bulb sucker, and I'm going to put it in her right nostril and pull that septum over and decompress the left side. And so that's exactly what I did. And it opened up her nasal passageway, and she was able to breathe. And I was like, oh, wow, we did it. You know, it was like a huge relief. And to our surprise, what came out of the right side was just copious amounts of mucus, just tons and tons and tons of mucus. And then what we learned in that moment was the secret to keeping her left side open was decompressing the right side and evacuating the mucus from the right side, which was pushing that septum over even more and narrowing down the left side, her only patent airway. And so that was a huge critical moment. I ended up drawing diagrams on the fridge and, you know, just instructions on, okay, if this, then this, if this, then this, step by steps, you know, of like what we're going to do if we encounter this problem again. And basically the plan to prevent the problem from happening, which was to irrigate the right side, not the left side. And so anyway, my point in telling this story is that the answers are within you. And when pushed and pushed and pushed into a critical moment, when you dig deep inside yourself, you can find the answers. And that is what the message is that I'm trying to share with people, is that there is a wealth of tools and information within you already. And it's about tapping into that and figuring that out. And you know, my main message is to really help families who have special needs kids, and to really say that, you know, life doesn't end when you're hit with that diagnosis for your child. A new life actually begins. And I want to be an example of that to the community. And also, I will reiterate that if you're caring for someone who is having a hard time breathing or needs medical attention, call 911 and get them to a hospital. Don't try to problem solve. this was a little bit of a different situation. So with that being said, I will continue to share information, and in another video I will share the debriefing that my husband and I had together, the conversation we had days after this event, where we reflected back and talked about our thoughts and feelings. And I think that was a very profound conversation as well, which I will share in another video. Okay, thank you.